Hi everyone, and welcome to the planetary nodes of Venus, the past, present and future of the evolving Venus archetype. Thank you, Sarah, for being my volunteer today. So to understand the totality of the evolving Venus archetype, we look at the sign of Venus, aspects to Venus, the house of Venus, of course, the south and north nodes of Venus, signs on the 2nd and 7th house cusps, and their rulers. Oops. Oh, hang on a sec. I pressed the wrong button. Oh dear. Sorry about that. Okay. So Venus and its nodes move through the signs much quicker than the outer planets. It is highly personal and unique to the soul. The natal Venus integrates the dynamic tension between the past and the future in each moment, allowing for evolution to take place. Here we have a diagram of the natural law of the past, present, future. The planetary south node is the past, the natal planet is the present, and the planetary north node is the future. And the south node of Venus represents the specific history, past life dynamics, desires, patterns, conditioning, and memories. The natal Venus integrates the dynamic tension between the past and future in each moment. And the north node of Venus is the vehicle for the evolutionary future to manifest via soul needs and desires. So Sarah's Venus in Sagittarius in the 9th house. She has the south node of Venus in Sag in the 9th house as well, conjunct her natal Venus. And her north node of Venus is in Capricorn in the 12th house. So Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. Taurus is the inner side of Venus, relationship to self, and Libra is the outer side of Venus, relationship to others. Sarah's guiding philosophy brings meaning and purpose to her life. It allows for a personal connection to a larger whole. In her deep thirst for knowledge, she needs freedom to pursue diverse experiences. She inwardly knows universal truth and natural laws, and she is highly intuitive. She can be prone to exaggeration. She evaluates others through the filter of her own personal truths and beliefs. May try to convince and convert others to her point of view. She needs movement, travel, humor, and optimism, and is open to sexual adventures. All of the above point to the types of people she will be attracted to and whom she will attract. Do you find that a pretty fair summation of your Venus and Sag in the 9th house, Sarah?
Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Anything else you'd like to add that we need to know?
No, you've got a lot of it covered there for understanding myself. So, yep, okay. I think it's good. Mm-hmm.
Lovely, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're moving on now to the rulers. So your Venus is ruled by Jupiter, Scorpio in the 7th house. This can mean material abundance, fun, humor, levity, optimism. Can be a bit manipulative and controlling, not just yourself, but the partner. And a buildup of resentment can lead to confrontations. And this has a lot to do with emotional honesty, which we'll talk more about later. The south node of Venus is also ruled by Jupiter, Scorpio 7th, and the north node of Venus is ruled by Saturn, Taurus 1st. And how interesting that they're in opposition to each other, further emphasizing the Venus archetype of give and take, finding the balance, and a push-pull between expansion and contraction. And so the meaning for the ruler of the north node of Venus, Saturn, Taurus 1st, is long-term financial relationships, helpful in structuring resources, enduring and possessive. Conjunct the moon is a deep need for security, and it's a new way of relating to self and others.
Would you like me to comment on that part right there?
If you wish, if there's anything at all you'd like to say.
Absolutely. On the north node of Venus, interesting about the conjunct the moon, the deep need for security. I would say that it's very strong in my psyche about how I feel that I'm safe and loved because of earlyhood, childhood trauma showing me other and how loving I had to get to the point where I loved myself to to ensure my own security from the inner world. And then it started showing up in my outer even more so.
Yes, and it's like a matter of survival, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, deeply.
Okay, so now we're on to your Venus aspects, and I'm not going to go into each one of them, but we can have a quick look at them. So Moon sesquiquadrate Venus, Venus conjunct the Sun, Venus quintile Mars, Venus sesquiquadrate Saturn, Venus quintile Uranus, and you do have your Venus skip steps, which is interesting. We'll talk about that later, and Venus trines your ascendant. Now we come to the natural inconjunct between the 2nd and 7th houses. This is the natural crisis of projecting our needs, expectations, and dependencies upon others, which forces us back upon ourselves to develop self-reliance. With Sarah's Venus in Sagittarius ruling both the 2nd and 7th houses, the requirement for balance becomes extremely important. At critical times, the 8th house polarity will produce intense crisis, leading to metamorphosis of ways of relating. The 1st house polarity will produce a need to break free by creating a life and reality independent of her relationship. With Jupiter Scorpio 7th ruling her Venus, a build-up of resentment can lead to explosive confrontations and emotional shock. For both partners, there can be a habitual pattern to be emotionally dishonest because the philosophical superstructure tends to mask or hide the actual emotional reality. The karma of dishonesty causes them to search for the actual truth, which can be quite shocking when exposed. The antidote is for the couple to speak to one another in absolute honest ways at all times. Do you find that to be true, Sarah?
Oh, one of the big spiritual lessons of my skip step Venus is about the honesty in relationship. That spiritual lesson, I learned it at a young age in relationship. My first love, I was dishonest with my first love, and traumatic. But over time, and then my marriage also did not work because of emotionally not speaking what I had experienced in my child. No one knew my full truth.
Uh-huh.
So I had to find the courage to even speak that, and that took time. And then now in my new relationship, this person knows my whole history. I can speak about when things come up for me or when something's triggered for me, and that emotional honesty is able to be authentic. I wasn't even able to do it before because I was so traumatized. So this is huge.
So, Sarah, when did it actually change for you? When were you able to start talking and actually, feeling safe enough to actually speak your truth?
After my Uranus opposition and Saturn.
What year was that?
That was about when in 2010, 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So my husband and when I married in 2005 did not know of my traumatic childhood. I didn't even go there. So that was underneath. He had also, in the very beginning of our relationship, did not tell me the truth about his brother who had committed suicide. So it was also something reflected back at me. He couldn't tell me until 6 months later because he gave me another story. And so I lived it in different forms, right? So not just my own, but from the other side. And then I also had, while dating, trying to find a partner, back and forth betrayals and things like that. That was the Venus skip step so many times. I was so weary of it. And finally I was like, oh, I need to speak what happened, what my woundedness, and get it up and then start healing from that. Then I could actually say the words and then be really frank. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all well and good going back to the past and being able to speak about the past, but we'll talk more about the actual present and your actual relationship and how you're able to speak the truth just in each moment with your partner.
Yeah, that's true. That's actual now. Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so on to the next slide. So we're going to look at the south and north nodes of Venus. So step 1 is to examine the archetypal dimensions of the south node of Venus by looking at the astrological ages. Step 2, how do the prior life dynamics of the south node of Venus Link 2, shape and condition the current life Venus. And step 3, how is the current life Venus evolving through the North Node of Venus? So here we have a little table of the astrological ages. One age is 2,160 years long, and a few little keywords here to give us an idea of, you know, our history. So with step 1, we're going to examine the archetypal dimensions of the South Node of Venus in Sagittarius in the 9th house by looking at the astrological ages of Sagittarius, of the Sagittarius sub-age in the age of Gemini, which correlates to expansion, higher thought and vision, and also Taurus, the Taurus age and the Libra sub-age. The Taurus age was the bull, earth, agriculture, money, civilization, and the Libra sub-age of the age of Aries was the social system, peace, sharing, and diversity. So the South Node of Venus in the age of Taurus, this was the end of the Stone Age, the beginning of civilization, cities, states, increasing social complexity, commerce, agriculture, property ownership, farm life, harvesting of food that could be stored, exploration of sensuality and the production of art. The earth became a symbol of fertility. Now this would apply to everybody really, everybody's Venus. We would all resonate, and we could have even have lived during those times ourselves, our souls that is. So we're all resonating with these ages. And so the Libra sub-age in the age of Aries, this was a desperate need to manage the chaos of Aries' ego development through keeping the peace, taking the middle path, and using reason to pacify aggression and to establish meaningful relationships. And then going to the Sagittarius sub-age in the age of Gemini, with the development of the intellect in the age of Gemini came the duality between Gemini and Sagittarius, between the rational and irrational, conscious and unconscious, left brain and right brain, logic and intuition, literal and symbolic. As humans separated themselves from God and nature, organized religions and the priesthood took on the role of mediation. So step 2, how do the prior life dynamics of the South Node of Venus link to, shape and condition the current life Venus? So when an archetype is doubled up, like Sagittarius in the 9th house, this just re-emphasizes that archetype. So in this case, we're looking at the totality of the Sagittarian archetype. So with a double emphasis of Sagittarius, Sarah's Venus is conditioned by a fundamental need for freedom to explore and actualize truth. Her Venus carries with it a philosophical superstructure. She is learning how to listen and embrace another's reality and to be emotionally honest at all times. She is using her intuition much more and expressing fairness, generosity, and humor in her relationships. Sarah, would you find that to be true?
Yes.
Absolutely. Am I being honest about it?
Yes.
Okay,
but it's something I have just started realizing since 2014, truly, in a relationship.
I know. It's interesting. The same thing's happening to me too. Okay, so step 3, how is the current life Venus evolving through the North Node of Venus in Capricorn in the 10th house? So here we have a few little descriptions. Sarah is learning more self-control in the way she conducts herself in society. Would you find that to be true, Sarah?
Yes.
Exuberance, like a natural optimism, and you're jolly and jovial.
Yes. You would never know when you first meet me that I had such a traumatic background. You would never clue in on that at all.
Okay, well, come to the present.
Yep, I'm back in.
Right now.
Yes.
So, okay, so yes, so in society, of course, you would have to conduct yourself in certain ways in order to be acceptable by society.
Yep.
And her Venus is evolving through a process of emotional maturation. Her self-determination allows her to define goals and ambitions, and I think that really is happening for you, isn't it, Sarah?
Yes, I have been quite successful in my professional life. That's very
Right.
Capricorn. I've earned a lot of money, and that's been wonderful to find my own with that. So yes, in that regard, and that I think that's what you're asking me there.
Oh, your chart really does speak of money for sure, with
Yeah.
Venus and Sag and all of that. And so also let me know if this is true, that you may attract partners oriented to outward success.
Oriented to, oh yes.
So you like these powerful, very successful business types?
Yes.
Okay. And have you attracted very emotionally needy partners in the past?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. What's your current partner like?
More of the outwardly successful. He's an interesting combination. He's that, but he's highly, highly intellectual.
Do you find that
Though has emotions, but doesn't know how to fully express them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next thing I was going to say was that comes with frozen emotions.
Yes.
So you've got that particular type. So I guess you're the emotional, representation for him. So the more emotional you can be and the more you can be honest about expressing your emotions will then help him to come out a little bit more as well.
Yes, absolutely. He's even said that point blank. It's like, I tell you things that I've never told anyone. So, because I'm like, here it is. If this is what it is. This is what you got.
And you will find that you will be able to say just about anything at all to each other.
Yes.
So Sarah, we've got here, Sarah will be feeling the consequences of her past life beliefs in the current life. She has a responsibility in the areas of career, family, and social role to create a reality that is stable, natural, honest, ethical, wholesome, and based on natural laws. Lovely. So we're continuing on with step 3. Sarah's belief systems will determine how she interprets life. Just one moment, it says my internet connection is unstable. I'm just waiting for that to get out of the way. Okay. Sarah's belief systems will determine how she interprets life and how she creates her Capricornian reality. If her beliefs are based on limited man-made laws and religions, then the entire reality of her relationships and social role is going to reflect patriarchal fear, guilt, rigidity, suppression, and judgment. As her soul aligns with natural laws, she will expand and evolve past limited beliefs and create a reality based on sharing, caring, inclusion, and emotional honesty. She will play an important social role in teaching these truths to others. What do you think, Sarah?
I am nodding my head vigorously over here. What's so important is my life experience has showed me what seems like this solid wall, and oftentimes patriarchal and the old way of business seems like you can't surmount it. And then I will have, the more I've tuned into astrology and the natural law and things operating on a cycle or something much larger than I can see how that's not as solid as it looks, and it, absolutely. I have multiple examples of that in my life.
Interesting. Okay. So just some general questions here. So have you found that you have like huge questions throughout your life? Like you're really searching?
Huge, yes.
Huge. And
huge.
How successful have you been? Like, I suppose astrology has been very satisfying for you.
Yes, but even inside the astrology, I will come up against questions that are not yet out there in a way. While I was heavily challenged for a whole year. Yeah. I think it was in about 2013, about the debate of fate versus free will. I sat on the fence because I was going through so many different teachings of my own, just by learning on my own for 5 years, not really going to anybody, just by book and by material I could buy. So I got stuck on certain big questions. I'm like, that's really huge. And it's really not well addressed. And it just seems to be, and it's like also the case around what kind of house system do you use? Those things just perplexed me. And then I started letting go of opinions of people, and it's like, okay, what works the best? What seems to make sense the best? And started comparing on my own. So
tell us your beliefs then on, is it free will or destiny? So what are you?
I think there are contracts we have with other souls. So there's kind of like an agreement going on, and those play out within the archetypes. So it's both, because you have to learn and you have to have, so it's both. And I think in one of the teachings that Jeffrey had, I don't know what CD is on or DVD that I have of his, where he says, you're having these lessons, you're repeating and you're learning it again till you can go further, make a new choice, but you're also meeting new people, new souls. And so there's a mix. And so, and it makes a lot of sense, because as you shift and evolve from one to the next, then it invites in new things to discover and uncover based on the cycle that you're in.
Fascinating. Yes, I'm just looking at your chart here, and I can see that the south node of Mercury is conjunct your Venus.
That's interesting.
Mercury actually is conjunct the midheaven, and the north node of Mercury is also conjunct. It's right on the midheaven. That's amazing. So what I'm saying is that so on both sides, there's the Gemini and the Sag operating together. And so with the sun in the 9th house, do you see yourself as a teacher, or would you like to be a teacher?
I'm already, I teach astrology workshops. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've done teaching in like career services, as teaching people about their career. How do they go about doing job search, just that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yes.
That would be the perfect career. Oh, there's my rooster in the background.
I love it.
Once they all start going, oh my God.
That's all right.
So that Venus would be perfect there. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so some more questions. Now, do you feel the strength of your intuition? How often do you,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, I get more just an intuition. I will get a psychic hit with images. I will get what do you call it? Clairaudient. I will get very specific things. Yeah. Which it was a part of my unfolding, because I pushed the envelope in my spiritual awakening. So I really pushed questions really hard. And then it was my guide. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've got your north node in Pisces as well. I guess that would be part of that.
Yeah.
I'm just using my pencil here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure how much time we have left, because all the times got changed a little bit. Does anybody?
It's 6:16. It's what does this go to? 6:40? 6:20?
I'm asking you.
I think we started probably 5.
We started
late though, so I'm trying to add up.
Well, we started about 10 of. So
so we have more time than that, yeah.
Okay, we have more than 10 minutes anyway.
You're 27 minutes in.
Okay, lovely. We've got about 13 minutes to go. That's great. I went faster than I thought I would. I thought I would have enough time, but I think I went too fast, but that's okay. So now we're going to have a general discussion on your skip steps. So Now, with skip steps, so, you know, what was the problem with
All right, we love him.
Granny just wants some bread. I should throw in some. Okay. What was the problem with your Venus? So you were telling us before about the honesty and the issues that you had in your early life.
Sure. Just to give you a real short scenario, I was 16 when my boyfriend went back home to Norway. I was living on my own with a boyfriend, eventually lived on my own with another boyfriend my senior year of high school, kept writing to my true love from my heart, who was in Norway, but I would split myself between my reality and what I wanted and desired. Eventually told him the truth, and it broke his heart, broke my heart, and I never accepted that, you know, there was a price that I paid for trying to hold on to it.
So would you say that the problem was in speaking the truth? Like, you know, you weren't able to get the truth out?
Yeah, because I couldn't speak that my whole world just dissolved when my mom moved away and I needed to find a home. And then I bounced around through 3 homes, and eventually a boyfriend's like, why don't you just live with me? And he was older than me, and I moved into Spokane just to graduate from high school. So I was in pure survival mode, and I had to forgive a huge story about that Venus is I had to forgive myself of that. But I carried that guilt and that shame for about 30 years.
Okay, let's move on now to your Virgo in the 5th house.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the guilt and shame could be tied in with this here. What do you think?
That's possible.
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah. The South Node, I'm still getting used to it being in the 5th house. I had it before in Placidus in the 6th. So I have to shift my whole perception here.
It's even better in the 6th because then that would definitely point to shame and guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very Virgo. So, yeah.
The chart is very Sag, you know, like the Venus dynamics, and it's, you know, all that optimism and happiness, etc. But then there is more to this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a strong sense underneath my consciousness, underneath that from my early experience of sexual molestation trauma of my childhood. Okay. And I'm okay to be public about that, by the way. It's important to understand from my journey, because that's consciousness, that survival mode set up so many other things. It was a driver also for me to go to college, to earn my way through, to build my own security. It was such a driver, because I also saw my mother who suffered from her love with my father falling apart, and that financially just hurt her really bad. And so she wasn't secure. There was this flailing about, and so there were, so she couldn't really get there. So it was a powerful lesson. So
with your South Node Virgo being ruled by Mercury on the midheaven, I think that's where the security ties into it. That's part of your skip steps. And the ruler of your North Node is Neptune in the 8th house, which would have to bring that into it as well. So we can see here the repeating theme is Venus ruled by Jupiter, Scorpio 7th, and the ruler of the North Node is in the 8th house. So we can see it all tying in. And then we come to... I want to speak one more thing that I think is super, super important, because it's related to the childhood trauma. I'm not going to speak about the who, what, when, where, what, all that, but what I want to say, the most powerful thing here is it wasn't safe to speak the truth in my own family. I'm going to say that. Okay. So that carried over into all the rest of it. And so until I trusted something bigger, until I, there has to be a reason, there has to be something to help me understand this consciousness. How about North Node of Jupiter in the on the IC here, and just not really being ready now with transiting Pluto has gone over that North Node of Jupiter, has been opposing it for the last few years. How have the family dynamics changed in that time?
The issue was resurfaced in another way. It's not fully healed. It's not fully addressed. It's still there.
Okay. So then we'll be moving on to North Node Pluto and then North Node Saturn.
Yes.
Story. Okay, so
healing continues on a personal level in order to gain more centeredness for myself to be able to speak it, because I know this is interesting, I find that I'm attracting clients into my astrology who have this same trauma. Okay. And it's pretty powerful.
All right, so the third house here, Gemini, ruled by Mercury on the midheaven, in Capricorn, sort of like restricted speech. And then the Mars, I guess, could be the abuse. What do you think? Mars in Pisces?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's square that Neptune in the 8th.
And then you've got the Moon and Saturn here together in the first house. And my gosh, and you've got the Scorpio archetype here and the Scorpio archetype again. And yeah, like all tied in together, isn't it? So I'd like to hear from other people. Any other comments from anybody else? Regarding the skip steps? Okay, Sarah, so have you tended to fall in love with friends?
Friends.
Because that's the North Node, that's part of the skip steps. That's the flip-flopping back and forth from the North Node to the South Node. So there could be a problem with the Venus.
Yeah, I would say that I might have perceived someone being more in love with me than, yes. So in my college days, yes.
Ending in disillusionment?
Yes.
And have you had trauma and loss around friendships?
Yes, female friendships.
So you've asked yourself, who is a friend and who is not a friend? That's interesting. So we're getting a little bit deeper here.
Yes.
Venus is a feminine archetype, and Pisces certainly is.
Yes.
And have you found that being too nice and hiding behind the emotional truth, being too nice, because like the North Node Pisces, you're just wanting to be nice, wanting to be good. You didn't want to speak the truth.
Yes.
And Virgo, I guess, is more likely to speak the truth, and it can speak the truth in quite a cutting sort of way. So have you found that, you've gone from passive aggressive?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, because I would say I was far more passive aggressive in my 20s. Yes.
Right.
I communicated.
Do you truly feel that you've had sadomasochism playing out in your life in your relationships? Like being overly critical of the partner and the partner being overly critical of you. And
no, I haven't had that.
Sort of getting enjoyment out of hurting the other.
No, I've not had that.
Sort of laughing and go, you're...
No, but where I have had that? Family relationships.
Okay.
So not if I had that in a relationship that I would have a partner, I would have walked away. But it's in family relationships, and it's
the wounding. Where's Chiron? I'd just like to look at.
Like Chiron is in Aries too.
Okay, so exaggerations and embellishments due to feelings of alienation. Have you sort of exaggerated the truth in the past and embellished just to fit in, just because you felt so alienated?
I think that would have been something I might have done in my high school days, trying to fit in, I would create the illusion that I wasn't as bad off as I was in poverty. I would create the illusion in my early 20s. Yeah. And then later on in life, that faded, I think, or became less.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because as I matured and took on my own, it became less.
Okay, that's fine. And so with the Gemini polarity of Sag, instead of trying to convert and convince others to your belief systems, so you've had to learn about the relativity of beliefs, so that everyone has their own.
Oh, I have one for that. So around the age of 30, I dated someone who was a doctor who was an atheist.
Right.
And I was like, how can you not believe in a God? I was just stumped, and he was kind, beautiful person in general. I mean, he was an ER doc, and he was lovely with people in general, loved his family and all this. And so I was just stumped, and I'm like, I just can't keep dating you because you have no belief. But later on in life, after I came to the awareness about, everybody has their own way of looking at something. I matured at that, and so it didn't, sidetrack me later.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. It's amazing.
It's not funny.
We all had the blinkers on. Great. So let's look at the resolution. We have about 2 minutes left. And so the resolution is consistent focus on the South Node Virgo. So why do you think that would be the case?
To keep focusing on the South Node of Virgo. So
we're looking at discernment here, discrimination, the details, perhaps the details that you haven't paid enough attention to. There's service, healing, humility that comes in, and then there's the creativity, will, and power of the 5th house. So this is these skip steps are asking you to consistently focus on that South Node in order to resolve those skip steps, which I guess you're doing.
What's so fascinating is I just tuned into this South Node in the 5th house. I started off with the South Node with the Placidus, and that's where I kind of really learned my EA at first.
Well, we only have 1 minute left.
So that's a good one.
Speak the truth to.
So she's learning how to love herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
emotional honesty for sure.
I just want to finish saying this here. So you're learning to speak the truth to lovers, friends, and children, and the emotional honesty no matter where it leads. So you're upholding a high standard of conduct in society because the ruler of the South Node is Mercury on the midheaven. And so the South Node is ruled by, yes, that's what I just said. And of course, trust your intuition at all times. So what's your intuition telling you right now?
This is really good for me.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great. I appreciate it.
So it's been wonderful looking at your